Back in the 90s, when I was still in primary school, I really had no clue how much danger I was there. I would have been around 11 years old living in a regional city of Australia for the last year. I've been having a lot of trouble at school, getting bullied a bit by classmates, and felt really singled out by my teacher. My mom worked around the corner from my school, so when everything would get too much at school, I would literally just walk out of class, down the road, and onto our walk site. It would take me about half an hour to walk there, the longer main road, a couple of times. I was sitting outside my mom's walk side when I noticed a small white car driving slowly past me. Later, I noticed the same car driving up my street at home and parked along the streets where my brother and I would ride our bikes. I don't remember thinking it was strange because it was a small town and it wasn't unusual to see the same cars or people. It was just like, oh, there goes that car again anyway. My family had a strict schedule. Monday teaching and swimming. There was always netball on Tuesdays, netball on Wednesdays, basketball on Thursdays, and on Fridays, depending on the season, we would go watch professional basketball or football. On Saturdays, my brother had basketball games, and on Sundays, we would go to the river with friends for a barbecue lunch and swimming. This continued until someone got sick. So on Friday night, I'm getting ready to watch the basketball game, but I can't find my shoes. I'm pretty sure they're in the car, which is located in a garage beneath our two-story house. To get to it, I would have to go down the outside steps at the front of the house, which have a full view of the road. I walk out the front door, and there's a small white car at the end of our driveway. Until now, I hadn't paid much attention to white cars, and it wasn't unusual for our neighbors' cars to be parked in this exact spot. But when I looked at it, I felt uneasy. I continued down the stairs, and as I neared the bottom, the driver's side door opened, and the man leaves quickly. I continue to walk to the garage, and he moves towards our driveway. At that moment, something inside of me told me to run away from my parents, scream, and lock myself in the car. I followed that advice, and when my parents came outside, there was no proof that anything had happened, so they didn't believe me. A week later, our school's newsletter had information of a guy trying to kidnap another student from my school in a white car. On the same night, my parents were very shaky and took me seriously after reading that I don't believe he was ever caught. But it definitely taught me to listen to my intuition and to take notice of my surroundings. A few weeks ago, my family and I traveled to the Hocking Hills in southern Ohio. I had always wanted to visit the abandoned ghost town Moonville Rail Tunnel. I had never been there before, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But I didn't realize it was pretty deep in the woods. We left our rented cabin and used Google for GPS to get to the location. To put it mildly, it's extremely impoverished. We literally saw very few cars on the way there, and they're on the back roads. When we reached the point where we had to enter a forest and were getting close to the tunnel, a sign indicating that we were entering Bubblewood appeared. For more details, go here. My husband and I travel in our very lucky Mercedes with our 10-year-old nonverbal autistic son and our 6-year-old daughter. We drive down a very strange stone road into the forest, and when we get to the end of it, there are no houses, no cars, and no one is around. We see some nearby signs and pull into a parking lot. We cross the footbridge and head towards the tunnel, which is much larger than I had anticipated. As we approach, we hear a sound coming from the other side of the tunnel that heads into the woods away from the parking lot. A truck is approaching us through the tunnel, and a man in his 60s who is white gets out and starts cutting wood. He walks everywhere with my family, so I try to strike up a conversation with him and find out information about things like whether he works for the Department of Natural Resources. Nevertheless, he wasn't actually touching. As we turn to leave the tunnel, Guy begins operating the chainsaw behind us. The sound of his chainsaw is heard throughout the whole tunnel. We currently don't have cell phone service, and nobody else knows my family exists outside except for us. I was concerned that people would assume we have money or something, even though we don't. As we hurried to get the kids into their booster seats, a man in a truck crossed the footbridge and approached us in the parking lot. I have no idea how his truck fed on it, but he stops again, gets out, and walks away, much to my relief. Around this time, I noticed that my car had some dusty handprints on it. He asked my husband if they were his, and we compared his hands to my son's, and they did not match. Since we were with the chainsaw man the entire time, we left as quickly as possible. A short while later, I noticed some dust being kicked up behind us in my rearview mirror. The stone road basically has a single lane with no phone service or GPS, so he would have had to drive very fast to catch up to us. Every time I think we lose it, he appears again. I'm waiting for something to pop out of my tires or for this guy to drive me off the road and into the ravine in the woods. When we finally emerge from the woods, we discover that he's still with us. We were following printed directions to return, and in my excitement, I turned the wrong way. Was finally gone, so I turned around to go past the stone rock that leads to the forest. There's a lone house near this road, and his truck is parked there. He must have seen us drive onto this road into the woods and taken a diversion to the tunnel. I'm not sure if he was merely trying to keep this site free of more graffiti or what, but he really frightened us. It felt like every scary movie trope combined into one incident.